Atheist Nomads, episode 265. Come on, Catholics.
The podcast you're about to listen to includes cursing and talking about hoo-haws. Please be advised.
Welcome to the episode of Atheist Nomads. I am Dustin. Joining me is Lauren.
Hello.
And joining us is Justin.
Hello.
How's everybody doing?
Pretty good.
Pretty fine. Pretty fine.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, no problem. We love having you here.
Yeah, and Lauren, you did a thing.
I did do a thing. I did a big thing. I did probably how many people did we guess?
I'm guessing 1,000.
1,000 people thing. Yeah, you were there. Boise Corgi Fest was wildly successful.
Awesome.
Yeah, we got something like a dozen vendors. Made almost $1,200 just off the cash events. So that's, the event registration, the vendor, not the vendors, the event registration, the raffle tickets, that kind of stuff.
And the events
silent auction.
Yeah. Where did that take place?
In Morrison Park.
Nice.
And
Saturday.
the events people were registering for was a race, a costume contest.
Oh my God.
And a pie eating contest.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
It was amazing.
All three of those sound like
So
mind-meltingly adorable.
Oh, it was so, of course, I missed most of them because I was busy doing organized stuff. But we haven't even counted the t-shirt and swag sales yet. So, yeah. Humane Society and Fuzzy Paws Rescue are going to get a big chunk of money.
Yeah.
Awesome. And that's great.
Basically, every media entity in the Valley was there.
Oh, awesome.
So Lauren was interviewed by KTVB.
Yep. And
Kylie was with her in that interview. Channel 2, they're on their website, Idaho News. There's pictures. You scroll along, and then there's Bucky. And it's like, that's Bucky, yeah. Follow back the leash, and then there's Kylie.
Nice.
And then you go down a few more, and then there's Bucky and Rocco with Kylie in the background, and you can see some of Lauren.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Did you guys dress Rocco up in a corgi costume?
No, but that would have been freaking genius.
Right.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh. No, but we did have a lot of fun, and I'm just really happy because this is one of those things that I just thought of 3 months ago. And in Lauren world, good intentions are my life.
Yeah.
But rarely do they result in a finished product. And here I actually followed through with something that people enjoyed. Tons of people. And
they're on you. That's
they're
awesome.
on Facebook, and they're all messaging me personally and thanking me for doing this. And I'm just like, I'm going to cry.
Well, not only that, but you made some money. You're doing some animals a lot of good. So.
Every single vendor, so they said, please, next year, sign us up.
Awesome.
We're on board. We had 2 complaints out of the entire day, and that was because 2 women didn't make it into the costume contest. One was too late, and the other one didn't force herself into the circle fast enough. So I'm just like, whatever, that's a wash.
Yeah.
But
if you get 2 complaints out
that's
of 1,000 people,
99% satisfaction rate. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
so
that's really awesome.
And the number of happy, smiling faces there was just amazing.
It was great.
Oh, yeah, I find it hard to be around a bunch of corgis and not just be stoked.
Just be miserable in the middle, surrounded by corgi butts.
Yeah.
And we met a listener there.
Yeah, Becca.
Yeah.
Got to do a shout out to Becca. We had a date yesterday, right? No, Sunday that I totally canceled. We're still going to get together for drinks sometime, but yeah.
Well, and one thing she brought up is, we have listeners here in Boise who haven't met us, and she'd been wondering if she'd ever run into us, and if she did, how would she recognize us? Contact at atheistnomads.com. Buy us drinks. Well, buy me drinks. We'll show up.
I think I found you on Facebook. I was listening to the show one time, and I heard you guys saying some stuff that I was like, this guy's got to be from Boise. He's got to be from Boise. So I found you on Facebook and sent a message and had you come over for a beer or something.
Yeah. Awesome. He's always up for beer. I'm always up for socializing.
Good porter, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's my favorite. My go-to. Imperial stouts are also great if Lauren's driving.
Which I almost always am because he loves Imperial stouts.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and I recorded this yesterday. And we are now joined by Robert Ray from the Original Motto Project. And, we've been talking quite a bit over the last few months about states passing laws requiring schools to display "In God We Trust." Where is this all coming from?
Well, there is a group called the Congressional Prayer Caucus Foundation, and they have a playbook that they recently put out called Project Blitz. And "In God We Trust" legislation is the first step in their Project Blitz. Okay. The whole idea of Project Blitz is to bring what they call religious freedom to America.
Which, what they mean by that is
religious freedom for Christians.
Yeah. They want the establishment of Christianity as the official religion of the United States.
Yeah, they want to focus on, if I remember the quote right, the history and heritage of a Christian nation.
Okay, yeah, so something that doesn't exist.
Yeah, this thing's 120 pages of stuff for legislators, especially state-level legislators, that gives them sample bills, and it gives lobbyists a lot of information on how to get these into legislators' hands. It's really a really complete playbook. I wish we had something like it. I mean, it's really well written.
So have you gotten your hands on a copy?
Yeah, in fact, that they published it online.
Oh.
It's a PDF. You can download it.
Oh, wow. Okay, so they're not being secretive at all.
Oh, no. Well, for 3 years they were, and it just came out literally earlier this year. It started making the rounds of those of us who pay attention to this stuff, and it was like, holy shit, this thing is amazing.
So this is this is just like the next step in what you were dealing with a couple years ago with county commissioners and city councils?
It's very much similar to the next step. It's a different group entirely, but I kind of predicted this would happen 3 years ago. I said, if we don't stop it here, it's going to get worse. And I was right, oddly enough.
Okay. Wow. And with these bills that are getting passed, what I've noticed is kind of a trend is the bills seem to be intentionally vague. Yeah,
they are very much intentionally vague because that makes them easy to defend. Much like, especially in the motto bills, they specifically don't mention Christianity in the bills. They talk about the history of the phrase and how long it's been the motto and things like that. But behind it all, it's a Christian push.
Right. Well, and they don't even specify exactly what has to be in the display, just it has to have those words.
Right. And that's the most interesting part. Arkansas was the first one to do this recently. Arizona had it before, and I think Mississippi has it before even that. Arkansas was the first one to do it. And they were very specific on what had to be in there. You had to have "In God We Trust." You had to have the American flag and the state flag, and that's what they required.
Okay.
And they were in a certain position. The American flag had to be centered under "In God We Trust," and then the state flag. The rest of the states have been very vague. It just says just put it up somewhere.
Yeah, someplace conspicuous. Florida's was interesting because it was vague enough that just putting up the state seal is enough.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that seems to have sufficed in a lot of schools. In fact, putting up the state flag would do it because that has it on it as well.
So then what can we do to try to fight these? Because like using the Florida one as an example, it was even proposed by a Democrat and passed almost unanimously.
Yeah. And that's where the problem comes in because they're passing these things as historical and basically ceremonial, that it doesn't have a meaning. But the people that are proposing these are the types that are the extreme Christians, almost fanaticals. People like, what was it? I forgot his name from Arkansas, but he's a super evangelical. The lady from Florida, she thinks she exorcises demons from government.
Well, and she runs a ministry. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's Representative Lynn from Tennessee, who actually she's just as evangelical as the rest of them. That's the people that are promoting this. So we know it's a Christian thing, but they don't say that in laws. And And they're going always back to the 1970 Arano case of deism, which is really frustrating.
Well, especially when you look at the history of it, where that was all part of the Red Scare, McCarthyism, anti-atheist, pro-Christian, and Christian in the United States in the 1950s meant Protestant.
Yeah. Well, even if you go back even further to when it was put on coins in 1864, it was a minister that suggested it to the treasurer. He wrote a letter in 1861 to the treasurer saying, hey, we're in this war. Maybe we should have God on our side. Right. And then later on, they were able to get it passed in 1864 under that pretense that God was on the side of the Union. Obviously a Christian situation. And I can't figure out for the life of me why this isn't obvious to everyone else.
Yeah. Well, and with the 1860s, there was also the bit that the U.S. and Britain were both, well, the U.S. was trying to keep Britain out because Britain was interested in siding with the South to weaken the United States. And the South had the better, for the most part, the better moral argument for the time period. And so putting In God We Trust on money in the North, to the eyes of Christian countries, would have given us possibly a little higher moral standing.
Right. And that was what it was about.
Oh, man, that's just, that's frustrating.
It's very frustrating. I've been doing this for a little over 3 years, and the level of frustration, it's like a sine wave. It goes up and down. It's crazy.
All right. So what are you trying to do to fight this?
So currently in schools, we are trying to donate posters that we have designed, which put the motto in a historical and secular context with other mottos within our history. Basically, the one we designed, it says, our founding fathers gave us E pluribus unum. Our grandfathers gave us In God We Trust, but we will always be we the people. And then it will fit whatever. So like with Arkansas, we have the flags on there, and other states that we meet their requirements. Okay.
Have you reached out to any schools about this?
Actually, I have. I've got a school in Arkansas, well, a teacher in Arkansas that wants a bunch. So we're sending him a bunch for him and his colleagues, because he said a bunch of us don't want to put up the one they're providing. And I saw the one they're providing.
Yeah, and because they went specific enough in the law, as long as they comply, they comply.
Right, and that I comply by putting In God We Trust, American flag, Arkansas state in that order, right?
Yeah.
The original posters that the senators who made the law were providing didn't comply with the law. And I got all over him for that, by the way. Took him, I don't know, about 4 months before he finally changed it.
Oh, wow. So is it just Arkansas that you've got people lined up for?
I've got some possibilities in Florida and a couple others here and there, but I don't have a lot lined up. This is kind of a new thing, so it's kind of hard to reach out. One that we're talking to right now is, what was the name of that? There's a county in Tennessee, Carter. Is it Carter County? Anyway, they're the ones that can't put up any religious anything because of an injunction against them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Back in 1983, I think they were having all sorts of religious practices on campus, and there's a federal injunction against them now. It says they can't do anything religious. Well, they're having a huge problem because they're afraid if they put up this phrase, it might be considered religious and it would break the injunction. So I said, hey, we have a poster that's perfect for you. It puts it in a secular historical context, and therefore In God We Trust becomes a non-religious phrase in that context. And so I got a response from the superintendent of the board, and he said he's going to take it to legal counsel and see what they say.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that one may be a huge push for us.
Yeah. Well, because that's one of the things that comes up is like Arkansas, it's every classroom.
Right.
Whereas like Florida and Tennessee, it's every school.
Right.
So you're having to work at different levels with those. And of course, with teachers, the higher level, or schools, the higher you go, the more political it is.
Right.
But yeah, if you could get some school boards on board, that'd be be amazing.
The problem is trying to reach out to all these school boards, because there's, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds, thousands of them probably. That's been the issue. We've just been trying to get locals involved and help us out. If you live in one of these districts, it'd be great if you could contact your school board.
All right. And how are you paying for these posters?
We are paying for them through donations.
All right.
So all our funds, everything we do here at the Original Model Project, we're all volunteers. It's either coming out of our pockets or out of donations that we make.
All right.
Have been made to us. So
and
this one I have a special fundraiser for.
Okay. And other than giving money, what can our listeners do to try and help out? One of the best things that we can do is keep an eye on this and make sure that these things get reported to groups like mine or Freedom from Religion Foundation or American Atheists, because they're all over this stuff too. Because we can't track everything, but we do try. The next thing you do is when laws like this come up, make sure you're contacting your representatives and let them know exactly how you feel about this law and why you don't want it to pass. All right. Very nice. And if we have anybody who lives in one of those states, would them reaching out to their schools be helpful?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. And where can people find out more?
So you can always find out more at originalmotto.us.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Atheist Nomads is proudly brought to you by listeners just like you. You can find out how you can become a patron at patreon.com/atheistnomads. That's patreon.com/atheistnomads. So we've been way too US-centric lately, and that's not likely to change just because of how much news is coming out of the US right now.
Dumpster fire comes to mind.
Eventually, yeah. I'm pretty sure, because I am saving some of the
fire.
The international stories. I'm saving some, and we'll do like an international catch-up at some point. But after the Trump date, we are going to start with Malaysia. And yes, I am coining Trump date for Trump updates.
Oh, very nice.
Yes.
Got it.
I thought of that this evening.
Very clever.
Yeah. So
I thought it was a deal where you get $130,000, but you just can't ever say anything about it again until you describe it. It's like, okay,
that's
right,
more of a Trump date. Never mind. I'm not going to use that anymore.
Well, I didn't want to ruin it.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, so Michael Cohen was arrested and has pled guilty. Manafort has been convicted on 8 of the accounts. The other 10 were mistrials. So, yeah, so far the Mueller team is batting 1,000.
Yeah, mopping up.
Yeah, so that whole draining the swamp thing that Trump kept on talking about, no, he didn't. You don't drain the swamp with alligators.
No. Well, you don't relocate the swamp or like call the swamp a different thing and say you drained it or whatever, I don't...
Like his model of draining the swamp was bringing all of the alligators and snakes from other swamps
that weren't in the swamp, right?
Into the swamp and be like, okay, cleaned up the swamp.
Yeah, they did. They
make this swamp safe.
They made themselves very comfortable.
Yeah. Anyway, so in Malaysia, human rights activists are pretty upset right now because a religious court decided to sentence 2 women to get 6 strokes, as in with a cane.
Oh, yeah.
Nope. And this was because they had sex. Malaysia is a Muslim-majority country, as almost everybody knows, and they are terrified of the LGBT community because they're afraid that it's a threat to their conservative values.
It is.
And so, yeah, they arrested a 32 and 22-year-old woman. They pled guilty to having sex.
With each other?
With each other.
Okay. Which
got them sentenced to a caning and 3,300 ringgit or $806 fine.
Wow.
Which I'm imagining is a substantial fine. I mean, because for me, an $800 fine would be a lot of money, So I don't know what the Malaysian economy is like necessarily, but
Sharia judge Kamal Ruzami Ismail said adequate punishment must be meted out so that this becomes a lesson and reminder, not just to the 2 of you, but to the members of society.
Yeah, that makes sense from his point of view.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
My argument would be, well, if men could just find the clitoris, then this wouldn't be a problem. That's not how lesbianism works.
That's how jokes work.
Yeah, and the law there actually defines oral and anal sex as against the order of nature, punishable by up to 20 years, caning, and fines.
That's insane.
So BJs are illegal no matter what, huh?
Yep.
It's like when they try to pass those sodomy laws until all the old perverts realized that means that they couldn't do their wives in the butt anymore.
Ah, man. Yeah. So, good job, Malaysia. Keep being classy.
Yeah.
Like Idaho.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it feels like home. So
Yeah.
Jack Phillips, who just won the Masterpiece Cake Shop case in the U.S. Supreme Court, is back at it again. A woman walked in and wanted a birthday cake. Okay, so far, everything's good. She wanted the inside to be blue and the outside to be pink.
Aww.
Okay, not bad yet, but the reason is because she's trans, and this is not only her birthday, but the anniversary of her coming out as trans, and so the blue on the inside, or it was pink on the inside, blue on the outside. That's what it was.
Okay.
To represent her, and he said no.
My question is, with this guy's history, what the hell was she thinking?
Well, maybe she was unaware.
How could you not? How could you live in that town and not be aware?
Yeah, I guess. I guess if you're a local, it was
It almost
a worldwide story.
Yeah,
and,
it sounds like setting it up for a troll,
trying to be antagonistic intentionally.
I think that's kind of probably a bit of it. She could have just been naive and not known that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh well, this guy hates gays, not trans people. I'm fine.
Yeah. So of course, she's complaining in the with the Human Rights Commission there in Colorado. But Phillips is also suing the Human Rights Commission and the governor for the actions they took against him leading up to the Masterpiece Cake Shop case.
Is he allowed to do that?
You can sue for whatever you want.
That would that be a civil suit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, anybody suing the government is always a civil
suit. Okay.
The only one who can bring criminal charges is the state.
Oh, well, yeah.
Or federal government.
Yeah, so you'd have to get the state to sue itself.
Yeah. So this is wow.
The whole thing. I don't know. I think people like that kind of do need to be put in the spotlight, so it puts pressure on them to change. But I don't know. It also might embolden other people. I don't know. The whole thing, it's just the fact that it's even having to be dealt with, it just is alien to me. I don't understand it. You know, I mean, I'm not like the most accepting person in the world, and I know I have my things that I'm a bigot about that I just haven't been able to like recognize or fully deal with yet or whatever. But just that blatant in your face bigotry like that, I just don't understand it. I mean, who cares, you know?
Well, it's like a drunk guy taking off his shirt and saying, "What are you going to do about it?"
Yeah.
It's like, shoot.
Well, and what's this guy care? You know, like it's your business.
His business is to make cakes to order.
Yeah. And to make money. You know, not like, and I guess if you want to put because there, you know, I suppose if NAMBLA wanted me to build them a piece of furniture with carving of a dude and a kid holding hands or something on it like that, I would be like, absolutely not. I'm not going to do this.
But if NAMBLA asks you to build them a table,
I mean, I'm taking money from their organization. It's less money for them to use for litigious purposes.
And even that's not a good example because NAMBLA is not a protected class.
Right.
She is.
Yeah.
And all she was asking for...
And
was a two-tone cake.
I don't mean to sound like I would be soft on NAMBLA or anything like that. I just
right.
As a business person,
it's too late. It's on the internet.
I know.
Justin
that's it.
Is a pedo.
Yep. Damn it.
I just Googled the results.
Yeah.
That was number one result.
Fast.
In fact, it's the autofill.
The world was primed waiting to
Justin is a pedo. That's the autofill for that.
No, that's Justin Timberlake.
That's why I wonder why if it is antagonistic, because there's no way that somebody would have gone in there with such specific instructions and then go on to tell the person their story, making it clear that this is definitely a cake for a trans person. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Because, like, if I'd been in that position just wanting to leave with a cake or to just place an order for a cake, I would have given the specifications, said it's a birthday cake, which is true, and left.
Yeah, because, I mean, unless there was something about the cake that specifically said, was like, oh, this represents my...
No text on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so obviously there had to be at some point where it was like, hey, by the way, this is because I'm transgender and this is about my my coming out and my transition. Yeah, that does seem a little antagonistic on that part, but on one hand, it's kind of like, okay, good for you, like whatever. But I'm the kind of guy where I really am not going to fault somebody for constantly keeping a bigot under the thumb of people. Also, so it's like I don't think I'd go and do that personally, but good for her.
He got away with it the last time because he took it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court's ruling was, in that one case, the state was mean to you, so we're throwing this out.
So actually,
that's all
she's kind
that
of
was.
A hero in this.
So this is starting the process over again, where it's not a wedding cake, it's a birthday cake.
Yeah,
it's a birthday party. He makes birthday cakes for birthday parties.
Yeah.
Making a two-tone cake is not a problem for him. He makes lots of two-tone cakes.
Yep. Yeah, the only issue is that the quote-unquote sexual identification of the person ordering the cake. And
the gender identity
and
of the
I honestly think people like that need to just constantly be in the spotlight. It was a racist deal, not a sexual deal, but that guy over on Pizza Chick or whatever that place is, that guy needs to constantly be reminded what a racist asshole that guy is, so that people will be aware and know where they're spending their money.
Oh man. So continuing along a little bit of a trend, we got Pat Robertson again because until we get to...
Is he 153 this year? How old is Pat Robertson?
Well, I could look
he
it
had
up,
to have been...
Okay,
wait, it has to be... He had to have been born before 1865, right? Like, I mean, there's no way that he was born after...
I think it is... if I remember correctly, he's about 93.
And riddled with dementia.
Yes.
But let's find out.
And bent towards conspiratorial thought.
He was born in 1930, so he's 88.
Oh, he's a spring chicken.
So I was 5 years off.
And his name is Marion.
Aw.
I'm going to start calling him Princess Marion.
Call him Maid Marion.
Maid Marion. Oh, you'll hate that.
So to provide a little perspective on this, Lauren's been taking Kylie to Story Hour at the Boise Library.
Yay.
Yay.
That's been a fun thing, right?
Yeah. It's been great for her.
So
it's been good for me, too.
Pat Robertson is a bit upset about Story Hour near him.
There's a library where they're hosting these events where men are dressed as women, and they've got all kinds of makeup on, and they're men acting like women. And they used to, out in San Francisco, used to call them he-she's. And they're reading books to children. And it's called the
he-she's down at the
Queen
Speakeasy.
Story Hour. Well, you'd better get outraged about this, and many people are. But library officials cited a recent event in Virginia and said it fits their city's vision of inclusion and diversity. Give me a break.
I wonder how upset he is about the Catholic Church using its power to protect people who victimize children. I wonder if he made as big a deal about that.
Yeah.
As he has this issue. I really, really wonder, because he's such a reasonable person.
I heard that Pat Robertson was on the tirade again. I did not know what about. And Dustin threw this at me. Was it yesterday? Mm-hmm. He's like, Lauren, how would you feel if story time was done by somebody in drag? And I'm just like,
freaking rad.
I was just like, So
I'm talking like cabaret. Like, come on, let's do a full-on drag show. I love it personally, but like,
I may find that a bit much, but that's just because I find not for
story time,
not for little kids story time.
Yeah.
But oh god, it's just like, so what?
Yeah.
It's
it's a learning experience for kids too, you
And
know.
what's
I mean,
funny is that
it's a you have a person in drag read them a story, and they're having this kind of fun, positive experience with that, right?
Right.
Then when you talk about it later, when you're, you know, if your kids are old enough to kind of see, you know, understand that there was something
going on there,
something that they're not, you know, experiencing on a daily basis or whatever, and you get to talk about it, and you get to introduce them to that in a way more positive environment than it being, you know, some right-wing jerk talking about how everybody that's in drag is going to rape your kids.
Well, Miss Cinnamon was a boy.
And
you're like, oh yeah. Kids get it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Kids
also,
understand this. They do not question it. They're like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
kids play dress up.
And little
This
90-something-year-old, 80-something-year-old men don't get it. And they're not going to story time, and it doesn't matter to them at all.
It's not their
kids,
children.
But to the kids, this is just adults playing dress up.
Yeah, and
That's not a big deal.
No.
I mean, there's no different than having somebody dress up as a historical figure to read storybooks about historical figures. Like somebody like, I'm going to dress up like George Washington and read about George Washington. It's like, I'm going to dress up like a drag queen and read about a little boy who wants to dress up as a mermaid.
Yeah. They haven't had an institutional
book.
Fear of queer installed in them yet, so they don't see it that way.
Well, okay, for one example, a couple times when we've been to the zoo, there have been furries there.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the adults are a little bit squeaked out by that.
Yeah.
I know I was. You know who wasn't?
The kids.
Yeah. The kids thought it was amazing.
They're big
mascots.
animals. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes sense at a zoo to see mascots of zoo creatures.
And
it does.
To the kids, those are just adults playing dress up. They get it. We don't.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and the sexual aspect doesn't even come in for them, you know, and that's the only thing about it that we have a problem
until
with,
your friend
you know,
at a party
as
decides
adults.
that her 12-year-old needs to finally be told about the furry thing, and why don't you tell her about it? Shh, Sarah,
you're the one that said the word furry first.
I was the one that laughed derivatively when she mentioned furries.
Oh, that's right.
And I'm like, you don't know about that part of the furry community. And then she's like, what are you talking about? And Sarah's just like, hands off. She's like, nope.
Do you give them the furry brony talk at the same time? Is that
furry scaly gif time?
So, as of day of release, this will be 1 week ago, the Satanic Temple held a rally at the Arkansas State Capitol, where they unveiled the 8-foot Baphomet statue.
This thing is so epic.
Cue slow clap.
No, I think it needs a thundering applause.
Yeah,
with lightning and thunder in the background.
I can stipulate that. I think it's fantastic. I think every fringe religion, spiritual belief, everything out there. If you're going to have one religion out there, everybody needs to get some money raised and go and put some, because we have freedom of religion in this country, and I think an equal display on public grounds is what you need to do.
Now, this isn't a permanent installation because their lawsuits aren't going anywhere, and their attempts to make some headway with the legislature are being ignored.
Of course.
So, yeah, they went ahead and trucked it out there anyway.
Yeah, and so are they LaVeyan Satanism?
Mm-mm.
No, they're like a Satan worshipping, like...
No, this is... The Satanic Temple is... We've done interviews with Lilith Starr, the leader of the Seattle chapter, a member of the Seattle chapter that's not Lilith Starr, and also with Lucian Greaves, who is the head of the Satanic Temple.
Oh, okay, I think I'm getting the two kind. They're the atheist Satanists, right? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Satan is more of a literary mascot than...
Yeah. It's more about the antagonistic idea of it, like the edginess of it, right?
Yeah.
Just to prove a point.
Yeah, which I agree with. I think it's genius. I think
love
it's funny
the statue
too if you
with the two kids next to him looking up adoringly. Oh, great set.
All right, so we're going to move a little bit closer to home, neighboring state, Utah, where a lawsuit has now been filed seeking to block Proposition 2 from being on the ballot in November. This lawsuit claims that legalizing medical marijuana would violate the religious freedom of the state's Mormons.
And so part of their religious freedom is controlling other people's personal habits?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
then duh. Okay.
The Mormons are all about that.
That case is one.
That's
then,
right.
So according to the lawsuit in the United States...
Because Mormons equals the state, apparently.
Shit, in Utah does, and half Idaho.
According to the actually, only about a quarter of Idaho. Well, okay.
The southeast quarter.
The southeast third.
Yeah, I was going to say from like District 5 over and about up to Salmon area.
Yeah,
seems like
yeah.
is pretty solidly the legislatures are run by.
Oh, yeah. The lawsuit reads, in the United States of America, members of all religions, including the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, have a constitutional right to exercise their religious beliefs. This includes the right to not consort with or be around or do business with people engaging in activities which their religion find repugnant, and to refuse to lease their property to people engaging in activities which they deeply oppose.
Which means that if medical marijuana becomes legal, then you opt out of it. That's what that means. Doesn't mean you go and you get a law so that nobody can do it. It means leave it the fuck alone.
They want the right to not be around people using medical marijuana.
Then go to a state that isn't going to legalize it.
It's the right to discriminate in really fancy terms.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
it's like, then go do what your predecessors did and go off and move all your people into one spot and just stay there with your exactly
with your pantries.
Like, I love Moab, but let's just give them Moab. Be like, there you go, farm stuff there. Good luck.
No, this is what they.
Legally, though, I can see what they're trying to say, but that's not no law can ever work that way.
Yeah,
right. No judge is going to sign off on the right to not be around people you find repugnant.
That's like the unmentionables of India. I mean, that's just that's 1890s and earlier U.S. and how people treated Mormons. Mormons were thought as, based on people's religion, they thought Mormons were repugnant and did not want to consort, be around, or do business with them, so they drove them out to the desert.
Mm-hmm.
Is this all some really intricate revenge plot? The bullied grew up to become the bully.
Yeah. It's just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Of course, we're not supposed to call them Mormons either. So.
And of course, that's the next story.
This is the next story.
But this lawsuit also cites the Masterpiece Cake Shop case, despite the fact that the case explicitly said that it does not create precedent and only applies to that one case.
Specific.
And yet everybody jumped on the bandwagon and immediately started discriminating.
Yep.
And I hope that Supreme Court is kicking themselves in the ass for doing that.
Well, Kennedy resigned immediately afterwards.
Did he write the opinion, the majority opinion?
Yeah. Yep, he wrote that, and then he wrote his retirement letter.
Well,
he's like, well, this shit's about to catch on fire. I better
get going while the getting's available, or something.
All right,
I don't know words.
So, the prophet and president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has now stated that the Lord has impressed upon my mind the importance of the name he has revealed for his church. He is explicitly asking and including in an updated style guide that the word Mormon and the abbreviation LDS should not be used anymore. Instead, the religious organization should be referred to as the Church, Church of Jesus Christ, or Restored Church of Jesus Christ, if it needs to be shortened. And members should be referred to as Latter-day Saints, or members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
They probably did the public opinion polls and found out that they needed to rebrand themselves, change their name, because, you hear Mormon and you just shudder.
But that's part of the Mormon identity. It's always been that way.
Well, like,
moving
I remember being
into the West,
being a kid, if you would call a Mormon a Christian, in my experience, they'd be like, no, I'm Mormon, and it was like, so it's just kind of weird to me, because there was always this really strong link to
once they moved out west,
Mormon.
They owned it. They were like, you drove us out, but that just made us stronger kind of thing. and, the pioneers, and they've been calling themselves Mormon for the whole time that they've been out here. And so to take that away, I think is just undercutting
sounds like
the
a
message.
PR move to me.
It is a PR move, but not one that represents the organization and the people of the organization. I think it's just this one guy.
Oh.
Except, he speaks for God.
Has there been has anybody spoken out, any like higher officials in the church, have they spoken out about it?
He's the highest.
They can't. He's the
they can't.
president.
You can't come out and say anything once
he speaks for God.
Okay.
They can't question him.
Wow. Because I'm sure there've got to be people upset about it,
Oh, I'm sure there are.
It's a slap in the face to your ancestry.
It's enough.
Roots.
It's a big enough deal that this was announced on the Mormon Newsroom website and the @Mormon Newsroom Twitter account.
Yeah, even the Mormons are officially calling themselves Mormons.
The website of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is Mormon.org.
Yeah, and they had the billboard campaign for like 5 years or whatever.
And they did TV commercials. I'm a Mormon.
I'm a Mormon. Yeah. Yep.
And now they're wanting to undo all of that. And I can't quite figure out the angle they're going for with it, because I think
it's a bunch of old curmudgeons who are just like
trying to change Coke's recipe.
But what this kind of reminds me of is what the Adventists did in the 1950s. And Adventists didn't do anything to actually remove their identity. They tried to reform it to be accepted as mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And they were successful. Mormons have been moving towards the mainstream, but even though the number of Christians who don't view them as Christian has shrunk, nobody considers them a mainstream Christian group.
If you just call it the church, or you just call it the Church of Jesus Christ, it almost sounds like a non-denominational,
Yeah. It's vague and confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Which may be exactly what they're going for.
The church, if you want to be proper, if you aren't providing context and you talk about the church, you're talking about
every Christian
Catholic Orthodox Roman Catholic, or the Roman Catholic Orthodox Church.
Mm-hmm.
That is the church, like capital T, the church.
Yeah,
is the Catholic Church.
Yeah,
not the Mormon Church. The Church of Jesus Christ. There are so many churches of Jesus Christ out there.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them non-denominational, little piddly,
just Bible-based, local.
Somebody's basement.
There is the Restored Church. No, there's Reformed Church. I'm sure there's some that have called themselves Restored before. There was a Restorationist movement, after all. They're trying to muddy the language, and it's not going to work. There isn't any way that doing this podcast would
stop calling them Mormons.
Well, I'm not going to refer to them by confusing and vague language.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be saying the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints every time.
Nope.
I'm going to call them Mormons.
What's wrong with LDS if that's the case?
Because it's so... it's the same as Mormon. You can't say LDS without thinking Mormon, without thinking them, pure PR move. It smacks of that anyway.
And it shortens it. LDS doesn't say that it is the Church of Jesus. And they're seem to be trying to push they are Jesus's church. They're failing to...
Well, yeah, in some fantasy historical land where Jesus came to North America.
Right. And they're failing to account for the fact that all churches are Jesus-y.
All Christian churches.
Or not
churches are Christian.
I would say they're not failing to account for that. They are counting on that.
Yeah.
That in the confusion, people are going to be more susceptible to mission work and stuff like that, because they're not like, oh, I'm from the Mormon church. It just sounds like a slick late night TV sales tactic to me.
Oh, that's still going to be the Book of Mormon.
Oh, well then, okay. But don't call the people Mormons.
Yeah.
So it's marketing.
I'm blaming 100%. The Broadway play. They really need to update their outfits too. The black tags and the white shirt are dead giveaway.
Oh man,
it's like the skirts when the Jehovah's Witnesses come up. It's like, oh, I know what church you're from.
All right, it's time for a break, and then we have some feedback, and then we're going to discuss the big news. We love hearing from our listeners. You can email us at contact@atheistnomads.com, tweet us at atheistnomads, send us a message on our Facebook page at facebook.com/atheistnomads, or better yet, call us and leave us a message at 541-203-0666. We might even play it on the show. You can also help us out by leaving us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or your podcast directory of choice. All right, so we got an email from Kim. Just wanted to say the baby noises are fine and cute. I barely ever notice them, but of course I'm a mother. I mean, I guess do what you got to do to keep the fragile male listeners. ... But I'm guessing a lot of your audience thinks the baby noises are great.
They are.
Awesome.
In fact, you guys just need a video feed of her while you're doing, like, don't show you guys, just a video feed of her during the podcast, and people will just be like, oh.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That would be awesome. Throw in a puppy every now and then.
Yeah. Have her taking a nap on Rocco and Bucky.
Jesus. I think we found our niche.
But, you know, we are I definitely appreciate that. I have put in an effort to minimize how much we hear of her. I don't remove all of it because I can't, and also I don't care that much about it. But when it's convenient, I do take it out because it can be distracting and isn't always conducive to what we're discussing, like this next topic. So last week, a Pennsylvania grand jury issued their report detailing, this is a 900-page report.
Ew.
One line reads, this group of priests use whips, violence, and sadism in raping their victims. It
sounds like an Anne Rice novel.
It talks about gifts priests were giving to boys and girls, and they want...
What kind of gifts? Like a yo-yo or a dildo?
Cross.
The necklaces that they would get so that the other priests would know that they were primed for abuse.
Big gold crosses for them to wear while they would pose naked on the bed for them to take pictures of.
God, that's fucked up.
Oh
God,
some of the stuff that is coming out about this, how well documented it was, you know, it's atrocious.
Just like pedophile and child pornography circles. Once you get in there, it's all very well organized with code words and meeting times and all that stuff. It's getting in that's hard, but once you're in, you've got it all on paper.
Yeah.
One priest named Zula engaged in violent sexual activity at a rectory in the Pittsburgh DOC. According to church records, he had parties for children with marijuana, alcohol, and oral sex. He attempted anal sex and used whips. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison in 1990 and died last year. In total, 300 priests and
over 1,000
more than 1,000 victims.
Yep.
Not cases, but victims are described. Now, most of these cases are past the statute of limitations.
There should not be a statute of limitations on child rape.
Yeah, it should be like murder.
God damn.
This is the most detailed investigation.
Well, I guess Pennsylvania is known for something else now.
But this is the most detailed investigation into the pervasiveness of the child sex abuse that's going on in the Catholic Church.
And who's surprised?
Yeah.
I'm surprised at the extent of it.
I'm not.
I'm honestly, I'm surprised that over 70 years there were only 1,000 victims, because it's about seven. It's about a set.
They've named.
Right. Those are the ones where those are the ones that came forward. Yep. And
so multiply that 10.
Ever since I first started learning about how much money the Catholic Church spends to cover up abuse and stuff like that, a dollar amount that they spend for it, it's so much bigger than this.
My guess on it would be that it's probably over the last century, I would guess 1 out of 3 priests and probably 1 out of 3 altar boys.
I mean, without having anything to judge that off, that sounds accurate, or maybe on the low side. How many reports with what came up in Chile recently,
where every single bishop in the country,
if not every year, every couple of years, something breaks, something comes out where this abuse against children by the Catholic Church, usually rape, it comes to light. Hundreds of victims at a time, and it seems to me like it's the rule, not the exception.
Yeah.
A cardinal.
It happened here in Boise.
Yeah, a cardinal in the U.S. lost his position as one of the highest ranking people in the Catholic Church when good allegations came out that he'd fucked some kids 50 years ago. He retired. He should go to jail, but that's past the statute of limitations. Fine, 50 years ago. Enjoy your retirement, but stay away from kids.
Yeah.
And this is absolutely huge.
Yeah. And it almost makes me want to just go down and like protest every Catholic church.
I am at a point where my grandma is one of the few Catholics that I will not just call out if they say anything about the Catholic Church, just because she's 93 years old, or 96. Holy cow, she's 96 years old. And it's just not a thing that at her stage in life she needs to deal with. I don't feel like she needs to reconcile that with herself, or I need her to reconcile that with me or anything. But anybody else that I know, and they talk about supporting the Catholic Church at all, I cannot contain myself. It's like, why? Know this, don't you? And they always do. They always know about this because it's huge news every time it breaks.
They know about it, but they've convinced themselves that not here.
Yeah. And
not my church.
Well, yeah, that it's this little tiny thing that's happening that happens everywhere in every church.
Yeah,
and
that's the other, that maybe it does. Maybe it is that bad. Maybe that seat of power and being unable to question authority just draws abusive people, and
power. Yeah, I mean look at the power that people assign their spiritual leaders.
So if you look at the vow of celibacy, there are the 7 sacraments that Catholics are supposed to do. You can only do 7. I was holding up 5 fingers. 7. You can only do 6 because one is marriage, one is chastity. So you can only do one of those 2. And that creates a system where to get into heaven, if you don't think you would fit in marriage, you've still got an out. For whatever reason you don't think you'd fit. If you are messed up, if you're a pedophile, if you're gay, if you're asexual, if you are in any way if you know you're a controlling asshole.
Yeah. You just know that you would not be a good partner or whatever.
That gives you an easy out. The power that comes with being in the church also attracts power-hungry assholes.
Mm-hmm.
So you combine that, and it creates a nasty situation. And then there's also the fact that masturbation gets boring after a while.
Mm-hmm.
And when there's a system in place that makes it easy to find something that's not masturbation to get your rocks off, and because of the way the system's set up, that it's going to keep quiet.
Yeah, I mean, it is. The Catholic Church breeds this by the environment that they've created.
Right, really these guys all got fiddled when they were kids, so they have every right to fiddle kids now that they're older.
South Park had a hilarious one when they covered it years back with some space aliens that were in the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Who were complaining about...
The Great Green Spider and
it was like, no, we can't... We have to be able to have sex with children because our women have vaginas made of razor blades.
Yeah.
And then the response was, okay, we'll deal with you later. Just looking at the humans.
Yeah.
But, oh, man. And all right, so for one response, and this is the best response. Ann Burke is a devout Catholic. She's a mother of 5 and a justice on the Illinois Supreme Court. She spent some time as a chair on the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops study on the nationwide sexual abuse scandal in 2002. So her response was, I wasn't shocked. Not at all. I think every state should convene a grand jury into this culture of secrecy that protected offenders at all costs. It was happening in Chicago, but we only had to rely on the files the bishops were willing to give us, and we knew there had to be more. but we had no subpoena powers. We had no government authority. We did a lot of research, but a lot was kept from us, and we knew it.
Yeah.
Yep. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
She was also not allowed to investigate bishops.
I was listening to NPR the other day, and they had somebody from the archdiocese in Pennsylvania or whatever on, and they were asking him if he thinks that internal investigations were a good idea, and he was no, of course not, because then the process is too open for corruption at that point. We need to hire private investigators to come in. So not the police.
Yeah.
Not people who have the public's best interest in mind, but people who have whoever's paying their wage in best interest in mind. It's absolutely disgusting. So this guy's like, yes, this is wrong and this is so horrible, but the police don't need to be involved. We still need to take care of ourselves. We'll just hire third-party investigators. And it's like, and then do what with the information?
And of course the Catholics want to do that.
Yeah.
They
couldn't survive if every government in the world that has a Catholic Church in their country decided to investigate their finances and their incidents of abuse and stuff like that. The Catholic Church would never survive it.
They still have orders, like the priest equivalent of orders of knights from the Crusades. They still have them. The Catholic Church, I think, has forgotten that they're not in the Middle Ages, that they aren't a separate pseudo-governmental authority equal to or superior to the state, but not under the power of the state.
Mm-hmm.
And they've also forgotten that, or they haven't continued with the times when people realize
they've fought social progress
that
at every
fucking
step.
Children is wrong.
Yep.
Right. I think pretty much everybody agrees on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody but the guys wanting to fuck kids.
Yeah.
Which I am now convinced is the majority of Republicans, because they seem to
have no problem with it.
They seem to keep defending the right to child marriage and covering up. If they're not child rapists, they're at least rapists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, according to senior Republican staff, rape is
you should
not real.
Well, who's the guy? You should enjoy it. Just, if it's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Just enjoy it.
Okay, so for one of the best responses.
If it's inevitable.
Yeah.
One of the best responses on this was from Bill Donahue. I wanted to call him by the wrong name. One of the best responses for this was from Bill Donahue of the Catholic League. So he, of course, had to try to debunk this report. Based on his analysis, most of those... Well, first off, it's only a percentage of priests, rather small percentage, not all of them, and that the number of valid complaints that they were looking at is probably less than half. Okay, so 150 priests raped 500 children. That's not
still on the unacceptable side. All the way down to one priest raped one kid. This is on, and it was covered up and not brought to the law. It's on the unacceptable side.
It only has to happen once, and especially if that one priest got moved across international lines, then that's like Sicilian mob level.
The fact that all these reports come out and there aren't huge local investigations by the police force or the FBI or whoever it is that should be involved, whatever law enforcement agency should be involved, just shows that it is like the mob. They're able to just say, oh, no, I don't think you're going to come. However that works, there's evidence that they are harboring child rapists, and nothing gets done about it.
Well, the movie stereotype of the New York Irish cop?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Irish Catholic cop.
Yep.
A lot of the groups that were 60, 70 years ago, not the right kind of white, they were all Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Irish, the Polish, the Italians. They're now cops.
Yeah.
It's probably not a surprise that even if they get reports, they're going to ignore them.
There's also that they get so many reports that, they just throw them in a pile in the back burner.
Yeah.
It's like the rape cases where they stopped like running the rape tests like years ago, never told anybody.
Yeah.
They just threw it on the back burner because...
who can be bothered? Who can be bothered with all these petty rapes?
Most of them are probably false allegations.
There are people out there selling marijuana. I don't know why you're worried about rape kits.
Seriously.
Okay, so Donahue, though, his best line out of all of this: "This is an obscene lie. Most of the alleged victims were not raped. They were groped or otherwise abused, but not penetrated, which is what the word rape means."
Nope.
Oh, let's nitpick.
No, it doesn't.
Let's nitpick. That's great. That's a great way to make yourself look not guilty.
Well, especially since he's the one that brought up the word rape. The report refers to it as child sexual abuse.
Which is exactly what he was arguing did happen, but...
Groping and otherwise abusing children, whether or not you penetrate them, is still sexual abuse.
Well, and saying that rape has to involve penetration is erroneous completely. Like, I don't care if that is a consensus of the dictionary definition of rape. It's just not what it really is.
Generally, it's the difference between rape and sexual assault.
Yeah,
which is
I don't see that line. I see them. I see if you are making an unwanted physical sexual advance on somebody, I see that as rape personally. Like, right. And granted that kind of sounds alarmist or whatever, but it is to me. It is. You're victimizing somebody in that same way. Just because you didn't penetrate them doesn't mean that you haven't traumatized them to the same level that as if you had penetrated them.
Which is one reason why for children, rape usually isn't even a standard because you have crossed that final line that you can't cross it any further. Long before you get to penetration.
Yeah. The emotional damage and further issues, trust issues and everything have been cemented. Like
one of the men that talked to the grand jury, he'd kept it silent and was horribly ashamed of how the priests had treated him when they made him strip down and get on a bed, posing like Jesus on the cross while they took pictures and fondled him. At 15.
What is so just another level of weird about this is the way that they have woven their religion into their abuse like that.
Yeah.
Where they're taking these
really
kids
distasteful
and making them do this imagery of Jesus on the cross. I mean, that's like beyond just... I need to get my rocks off. That is like, I mean, there are just levels upon levels of warped
psychosis.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, I think that's, I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Mormon Jesus portrait. And I remember this girl in high school saying that she thought that portrait made Jesus look sexy. And I am almost positive that that's why they painted it like that. Was because these kids and these priests and these people aren't allowed to get their rocks off in a normal way.
But you can act
so they sexualize their own religion.
And you can act just like you would with a pop star with Jesus and not have it be instantly like, oh, this is a sexual thing. It's just like, oh, your love for God is so great, Where if you're doing it with a pop star, it's like, oh, your teenage hormones or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
All right, so Bishop Paprocki of Springfield, Illinois, had some thoughts on the whole Pennsylvania thing. He thinks it's not actually a church problem. It's just that the church is getting affected by the sexual revolution that occurred in the secular world.
Oh, you mean the sexual revolution where everybody just started raping children? That sexual revolution that happened, apparently, that... there's no record of, like, what the... So what he's kind of failing to take into account is... of course, he blames acceptance of homosexuality and contraception. Of course.
And that the answer is spiritual renewal.
So, interesting how that works. So, the acceptance of secular society... with the LGBT community and a more libertine attitude towards sex, right? Corrupted their priests and not the secular world. I mean, so how strong is their God or their religion or whatever it is, that they're the moral authority, even though they're the most susceptible people to. I mean, the logic of this is insane. It's all over the place. Like,
yeah, especially since it fails to take into account that, okay, adult men fucking children that they're mentoring was a normal, acceptable thing from at least 5th century or 6th century Greece, or 6th century BC Greece, into the Renaissance. So was slavery.
Yep. So was misogyny. So still is misogyny.
But we figured out that people aren't property and children aren't sex objects.
Yep.
And the rest of the world figured that out. The Catholic Church hasn't. They're still stuck in the Middle Ages. They also...
Right. Their entire church is based off of Middle Ages, so why would they give that up now?
One reason why
it's
so many...
Uncle Rico talking about that game, in 84. He should have, it's ridiculous.
One of the reasons why so many nuns work in hospitals and schools is their other option is basically being a bishop's slave. Yeah.
I give the Catholic Church no respect, or the only time I'll take them serious is in cases like this, and in how abusive they are. They're just a joke. And it's just infinitely disturbing that so many people can see this and still are going to tithe.
Yep.
Now, in response to this, Pope Francis wrote a letter to all Catholics asking them to help root out, quote, this culture of death. Okay, we're not talking about priests killing children.
This culture of death in a death cult? Okay, whatever.
And also promising that there'll be no more cover-ups.
I'm sorry.
It's culture of death. Just don't call it what it is.
The problem isn't a culture of death. In Catholic terms, that's code for abortion.
It's a culture of lack of accountability. And at least by my perspective, everything else is a side effect of that. You have no accountability in a system that bars you from being able to have sexual release, and everything else that comes from that is a symptom of the fact that they have no accountability. The only they have accountability to themselves to protect each other. That's their accountability.
Yeah. Oh, and actually, in the Middle Ages, it probably was even better then, because at least the Catholic Church thought it was at least not horrible for priests to get in with a prostitute.
The Anglican Church, they can be married, right? Okay.
Yeah.
If this doesn't kill the church, I don't know what will.
Well, nothing will.
Time.
It's been around
like every other religion. Time.
It's been around for 2,000 years.
Right, when this stuff was socially acceptable.
It has 1.2 billion members. Those numbers,
until the Mexicans break off.
Yeah. Those numbers are sketchy anyway, because that counts the population of Mexico, the population of Brazil.
Oh, right. Everybody?
The entire population of Spain.
That's not how religions work.
Catholic countries get counted by everybody.
Yeah.
And, oh, man. But, so I'm sure there's a lot of people who have been applauding Pope Francis for making a bold stand, promising that there'll be no more cover-ups. We don't want no more cover-ups. We want all of the records that the church has turned over to civil authorities.
Exactly. We want everybody who abused someone who is eligible to be prosecuted to be prosecuted.
Yep.
That's how you fix this.
Yep.
That's how you start to fix this. That's a very good step.
That's just the first step.
Yeah, that's a very good step in beginning
Otherwise,
the healing
nobody's ever going to trust you anyway.
Even if
we promise.
We promise. And then 5 years from now, or 2 years from now, or 6 months from now, there will be another explosion. There will be a leak. Somebody will step forward and they will find that this has happened again, because we know that's going to happen because it keeps happening.
Yeah.
Okay, if they were to try to do reconciliation properly with society, they would probably need to sell off a whole lot of property.
Oh, yeah. They'd have to get rid of some of that gold.
The church lands, the gold, they'd need to melt down the gold plating in their buildings, sell off their hospitals.
Sistine Chapels going to a private buyer.
They could raise the money
or a museum.
do settlements with every single victim. It's not going to happen. And even if
what sucks is that they might actually have the money to do it.
Oh, they could. They are by far the richest organization in the world. They're definitely richer than any country.
I mean, their properties in Rome are priceless.
Yeah.
Literally priceless. That's
true.
Their properties across Europe and Latin America are immense. Heck, just their hospitals in the U.S. alone would be billions, if not $1 trillion, if they sold them all. They could liquidate assets if they needed to. But that's not going to happen.
No.
So what they need to do is start turning over all of the records to the authorities and let the authorities handle it.
Yep.
And every time it happens that another one gets reported, they need to turn it over to the authorities.
Suspend, if there's an allegation, suspend that priest, give him pay, so that they can survive until investigation by the proper law enforcement authorities is complete.
Well, most priests have also taken a vow of poverty. They get little stipends.
Yeah.
And living expenses. They don't actually get paychecks.
Well, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, continue to provide for their physical well-being. Don't put them out on the street until the investigation's done, just in case there is a false accusation, because mixed into probably 99% legitimate accusations, there are probably going to be a few false accusations. And so, there needs to be some level of understanding through the process of determining whether an allegation is legitimate or not. But as soon as an allegation is made, they need to be taken into a position where they cannot be around kids until we know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
Just the fact, why is it okay? It's not okay to hit your wife, but it's okay to hit your kid. Rape against adults is becoming more of a social hot point, where it's becoming less like rape culture. They're really trying to chip away at that, I feel like, anyway.
But don't you dare tell a parent or an adult that they can't do something to kids?
Yeah. And it's why are our most vulnerable people the ones that we do the least to protect? It just, it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are way out of time.
Yep.
So, on that note, Justin, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for letting me ramble. I appreciate it.
And Lauren, thank you for
holding a sleeping baby.
Taking care of that adorable little squish.
Oh, God, she is a squish.
Oh, so squishy. I'm going to eat all of her toes.
And listeners, remember, not all those who wander are lost. Thank you for listening to another episode of Atheist Nomads. You can find show notes and contact information at atheistnomads.com. Follow us on Twitter at Atheist Nomads, and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/atheistnomads. Please subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or your podcatcher of choice, and while you're there, feel free to leave us a review. Theme music is courtesy of Sturdy Fred. Until next time, this has been the Atheist Nomads.